Well, hello everyone and welcome to the M.I. Gardner Produce Stand. For those of you that have not seen this, I do have a produce stand that whatever I can't eat, give to my friends and family, or donate to the soup kitchen, we have to do something with, and that usually ends up either preserved in the freezer or sold fresh. And things like squash, zucchini, beets, stuff like that, we do preserve a lot of it, but we also want to sell a little bit of it too, to cover the overhead on the garden. So a lot of you have been asking me, Luke, how do I make money from my garden? And so I decided I would start off this series on how to make money with your garden by discussing the differences between basically a produce stand at home versus a farmer's market stand, because I have done both, and so I know the ins and outs of both and kind of what made me decide to do one at home. So the first thing we're going to talk about is prices. When it comes to prices at a produce stand, you want to be able to set your own prices. And for me, that's really crucial because I find that my time and my effort, and also just the connection that you have with the produce, you don't want to just be giving it away. And that's one of the things that I found out through the farmer's market is that the farmer's market manager, basically the overseer of the farmer's market, will not really set prices, but make sure your prices are within a certain guideline. Because a lot of times people will maybe set them too low and will take all the business, predatory pricing. Or maybe sometimes people will have like a similar product, but have it marked really high for no reason at all. And they might be in a really good spot of the farmer's market, and the people walking in are saying, oh, well, hey, you got this, I need this, I'm gonna buy it. And then they get further into the farmer's market finding out that someone else has the same exact item for just less price. And so they just kind of monitor the prices so that there's fairness across the board for everyone. Now, the next thing is when it comes to location. Location is something that is really crucial to having a produce stand here. We are on Main Street, which is why it's very hard to film without having a car go by, because we're right on Main Street, which makes it great for us. However, if you're someone that lives out from the country, a produce stand might not be your type of thing because you don't have the type of volume. So that's where the volume comes in, and that's where it's really crucial at a farmer's market. Because a farmer's market, everybody knows about it, and you have just a grouping of people, just a kind of little community, and that community attracts all those people to come in and shop, and that's where you're going to have a lot more people coming in at the same time, and you're going to move a lot more produce as well. Now, the next thing ties into community, which is a benefit for those of you that like farmers markets, and that is community. A lot of times at a produce stand, like at the house, it's just yourself. And you might get a couple friends that have some produce that want to join in together and have a produce stand. But at a farmer's market, you have so many people that are bringing their wares and doing their things, and oftentimes you can actually trade with them. For instance, when we did the farmer's market, we would have tomatoes and zucchini and cucumbers, and we would walk down there and we would ask people if they wanted to trade. And oftentimes we'd find out that, so-and-so has a bottle of honey and he's willing to trade for 3 or 4 zucchini. Sure, let's do it, because that's actually how bartering works. And that's what's really nice, is it doesn't actually cost you any money to get something else that you need. And that's very able to be done at a farmer's market, but not able to be done at a produce stand. And the next thing we're going to talk about is the table size. When it comes to a table size, you can have as much table space as you want when it comes to a home produce stand. But when it comes to a farmer's market, the table size is actually limited because you actually have to buy that space. And so when it comes to just making your money back on your produce, you obviously want to make sure that you're not spending more money than you're making. And oftentimes I find, depending on the farmer's market, the cost per table can be very expensive, and you'll find that you'll spend more just on the tables or the table space than you do in the produce that you're selling. So that's one crucial thing that you have to make sure of, and that's one of the things that actually deterred me from farmers markets, is that the one we went to, the biggest one, it was $35 a day for your table space. You could have a 10 by 10 tent, anything you could fit underneath the 10 by 10 tent, it was just $35. But $35, I didn't have enough produce to sell that equaled $35. So I would be, even if I sold out, I would just be breaking even. And for me, that was not cost effective because I might as well have given it to the soup kitchen or donated it to the local homeless shelter and actually, made some people happy, which we also do, by the way. We do give food to the homeless shelters and we do give food to the food pantries. But, like I said, if you're not making your money on it, you might as well be changing even more lives than just giving it away, basically. And the last thing we're going to talk about is organizations. Oftentimes, you find with the larger farmers markets, they're actually in a traveling organization, people that make it a job. It's their living to sell produce. So when it comes to a small guy like me that just is selling produce when he has some extra, it's not really suitable for me because I can't travel. And it has to be one of those things where you really do have to sign on because they need a certain amount of people to kind of travel so that they have the awareness and the hype around the size of their farmers markets. So here in Michigan, we have the Michigan Farmers Market Association, and that is one that literally travels all the way from Ohio up to the UP, the Upper Peninsula, and they travel all around. And it's something that I just can't do because it's not a living for me to sell produce like that. So it's not suitable for me to do that. So I had to go to the smaller ones where it was just kind of come as you are and whatever you have. And I liked that, but again, it was the table fee, and I just found that it was really counterproductive to be giving a table fee only to, just sell as much just to cover the table fee. So, well, hey everyone, we actually had to come indoors, and it actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise because it reminded me of some other things I want to talk about really briefly, and that was weather. If you have weather that is, kind of poor, raining or windy or, whatever, stormy, you can actually come indoors. Just throw a tarp over the stuff you don't want to get wet and walk indoors. Whereas at a farmer's market, you really can't do that because at a farmer's market, you've already driven there and you've already packed up the car, put the tent in, put the tables in, put the produce in, put any chairs in or whatever. And as you really got a commitment to just stay there and just hold it out. And you can't throw in the towel and say, okay, you know what? Today I'm not going to open up because you're already there, so you might as well. And so that's kind of one of those things that kind of can give you a little bit miserable, and I've definitely had my fair share of miserable days at the farmer's market. So it's one of those things where over time you really do get spoiled having a home market because you can just set up a produce stand outside, and if it rains, walk inside. Or we live in a really good neighborhood, so we can just leave the produce stand out there even overnight. So whereas at a farmer's market, you only have a produce stand open maybe once a week, twice a week. With a produce stand at your house, you can actually just have it all week long. There's no limit to how often you can have your produce stand open. So it can truly be just an honor system where you leave a bucket with a slit and they just drop in money and take produce, or you can man it when you're there, or you can do a little bit of both. Whereas at a farmer's market, there is no such thing as an honor system there. You have to pretty much man it all the time. So there's a lot of benefits to having it at your house, but there's also a lot of benefits to having it at a farmer's market as well. But the last thing we're going to talk about is why I chose, obviously, to have it at my house, because I did. I chose it for the main reasons of price selection. That was a big one, because I find that my produce, it warrants a higher price. And I'm not so confident that I say, well, my produce is better than everybody else's. It's just I've actually physically tasted other people's produce and trying their stuff versus my stuff. And the way I grow mine and what I grow them in, they have a lot more sweetness, a lot more condensed sugars, a lot higher water content. And it's just a very much higher quality vegetable. And so why would you not have a higher price for that? But again, you can't have a higher price at a farmer's market because the prices are pretty tightly regulated. Now, another thing that I like to have is space. I like to have lots of table space. And if I'm spending $10 per table, that's not really cost effective for me because I found that I would spend just as much as I made. And if I'm barely breaking even, it's not worth my time. And it's also not worth the fact that I'm basically giving produce away that I could actually give away to someone that actually really, really needs it. So, there's another thing. And so the very last reason why I chose it is just because it's efficient. I have the main street right outside my window, right outside my door, And so I have the volume that you'd get with a farmer's market, but it's also at my house where if I don't want to open up that day, I just walk indoors and leave a bucket out there for people to put money in. Or if I want to man it, I walk out there and man it. You know, it's really based on my own personal preference for that day. But the next thing and the very last thing that we're going to talk about is what you should do. And the best way to make money using your garden, whether it's a produce stand or a farmer's market, is to go off your personal preference. It is really based on your variables and what you want to do. Make a pros and cons list based on what I told you and simply see if that's what fits you. If you live out in the country, a farmer's market's going to be your type of thing. But also make sure if you're going to a farmer's market, make sure you have enough to cover the table costs. And also make sure that you're willing to give the prices that they are asking, because you do have to match those prices there typically. I have found some where they're pretty loose on it, but all the ones around me that you're going to do well at, you have to set your prices. And then the very last thing is, do you want to maybe barter? Do you want to trade for goods, and or do you want to just sell your produce? And so if you want to trade for other people's maybe eggs or honey or bread or whatever, you're going to want a farmer's market. That's going to be something for you. And those are all cool things that I did enjoy. But once I laid out the pros and cons list, the home produce stand was my type of thing, and it best suited me. So there you go. There's the pros and cons for farmer's market versus home produce stand. Hopefully you all enjoyed, and hopefully you learned something new. And if you do sell produce, let me know. I really would like to know who sells stuff out there at a farmer's market or a produce stand, and kind of what your opinions are on that, because it's a really cool subject to talk about. So let's get some discussion going in the comments box below, or head over to the Facebook page, and I'm actually going to make a post where you can actually discuss back and forth with other people the pros and cons of a produce stand versus farmer's market. So until next episode, this is Emma Gardner reminding you to grow big or go home. I'll talk to you all later. See you guys. Bye.